are live.
Thank you, Dale.
We are live. Hello, and welcome to this meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. I'm Bob Tremblay, your first vice president, filling in for Diane Hall, who is at still working ARG from the email here. She'll be giving our presentation later on tonight. So, usually when we have one of these meetings, we go around and introduce ourselves, but we're not going to be doing that. But what I will ask, are there any new people here? So most people are still joining, so maybe we'll do that later. Um, so um, let's go on with reports. So the president report will be coming later. The first VP report is I need lectures, and we are filled up until May. After May, we have a couple open spots in May, and we have open spots in July. I've scheduled a couple people for talks so far. So if you'd like to give a talk in May or July or August, let me know, firstvp@warrenastro.org, and you can do anything you want. There's a lot of space missions out there now. So, treasury report, Adrian.
The Treasury is still looking strong at $22,897. The I am a black treasurer. I've stepped down from president and became the treasurer. So there is a possibility tomorrow that we will be getting GLAC its own bank account because it has its own 501c3 status, according to what the new president, John Wallbank, is saying. John worked on that during my tenure as president of GLAC, in which we did everything virtual. This is sort of cutting into the GLAC report, Bob,
That's
but
go for it. That's fine.
we are pretty well determined to have a physical astronomy of the beach as we used to do. Somehow, David will still figure out a way to get you to be able to participate in the festivities, whether we do something hybrid or get something online. So we don't have to fly you out of Arizona, unless you would like to make that trip. But unfortunately, it's near the Arizona Star Party timing, September 17th and 18th, I believe. So, um, so that's sort of mixing in with GLAC. We have 100 members who have renewed their memberships, and possibly more on the way, depending on when one of my deputy treasurers, Mark Kedzier or Dale Timmy. Deputy Mark has handled picking up the mail so that your checks are cashed in a timely manner. No more of this 1 month stuff. So thank you, Mark. Everyone owes Mark a debt of gratitude for helping me with that. And Dale Timmy gets a debt of gratitude for helping me with the ledger. And you know, we can keep track of our money so many different ways. We have our PayPal account, which is back up to around $1,000 of virtual flowing cash that we can use for payment for things. One last thing I'll include in my report: those of you that have paid for the Astronomical League will be renewed at the end of June, and you will be an Astronomical League member until June of 2023. So if you do pay your Astronomical League dues, they will be officially renewed and put towards your membership in 2023. The Astronomical League likes to do things halfway through the year. There are events that they are doing, and the Global Star Party on Tuesday nights, which David is also a part of, um, are some of the event one of the events that the Astronomical League is a part sponsor of. So that covers the Astronomical League too, Bob.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'll wait for observing reports to talk what little what observing I've done. But I am going to let everyone know I have started my book for the night sky imaging that I do at Point O'Bark Lighthouse Park. Um, I'm collecting images, writing, and the book is mostly foreign. Most of what I want to share, it's now on to the putting it together, organizing it, and publishing it that I have to start getting going. So the goal of the book was to basically share a memoir of what I've seen out at Point O'Bark Lighthouse Park. It's one of my favorite places to do night sky imaging, and it is a Bortle 3 zone, kind of an unheralded Bortle 3 zone here in the state of Michigan. So it's it's a great place to visit day or night, and um, I will happily tell more people about it as we go. Final note for Riyadh, I gave him my Revolution Imager 2. One of the things we were thinking about using at the observatory saves us a little bit of money in buying a new one because I had a working one that I wasn't
Oh,
really
thank you.
using. So we are that part of the ways we are saving our pennies at the WAS. Um, so I think I've taken up enough time. It almost feels like I'm delaying or something. So I will let's keep the meeting moving. I'll go back on mute. That is the end of my report.
Okay, Riyadh, second VP, observatory report.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Hello, everyone. So we had our observatory open house meeting on January 22nd. We had about 3 or 4 people that showed up. And unfortunately, it was cloudy, but we did talk about the observatory, the history of the club, the history of the observatory, the telescopes, and answered some questions. And as Adrian mentioned, I'd like to thank him for his donation of the Revolution Imager, which is a self-contained basically unit. It's like a electronic eyepiece that can show in real time some of the brighter deep sky objects, and it has its own monitor and so on. So it's easy to use. With that, we're still looking at including some new equipment to the observatory, as I talked about before, including maybe a new planetary camera that will do something a little bit different, special than the Revolution Imager, as well as a dispersion, atmospheric dispersion corrector that we're also considering, and a couple other items. So the next open house is coming up next, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 26th. Unfortunately, because of some health issues I have right now, I'm not going to be able to make that open house. So if I can find a volunteer or someone who's been trained at the observatory and how to use it to be able to open the telescope or the observatory for the 26th, February 26th, then we'll have an open house. Otherwise, it may be canceled. So look for a cancellation note that may be sent out Saturday. Probably, I would say no later than about maybe 2 o'clock or something like that, or it could be before that too. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Riyadh. Hope you get better soon.
Thank you.
Secretary report. Dale.
That's Mark.
Mark. Oh, right, Mark. Sorry. You're muted, Mark.
Sorry,
There you go.
nothing to report.
That's all.
Okay.
You were
As I
talking
were.
and a
As I
talking.
were.
Is Kevin here? I do not see Kevin on. So I guess we'll postpone the outreach report. Publications. There we go. Dale, publications.
Okay. Well, the WASP is online for February, and we are well underway getting the March issue put together. Welcome any people to write in letters to the editor or whatever. Fill those pages up beside with Gary's material, shall we say. And I think we're still at 3 calendars left. So if anybody's still on the fence about that and want to order a calendar, they are $15 for a calendar with $5 flat fee shipping handling. Send in request to publications at warrenastro.org, and we'll get that going. And that's my report.
All right, thank you. Got some sad news to report. One of our more recent members who joined in 2021, Stan Andrzejewski, I hope I didn't mess his name up, has passed away, and his wife has returned a loaner scope that he had out at the time of his death. So sad news, we lost another member. Let's see, anything else down here? All right. I'm going to do a real short in the sky. So let's share this thing here. The news in the sky, there's that screen. All right, can everybody see that moving around? See Stellarium Web there?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Yeah, so this is the western sky at sunset. Jupiter is is just below the horizon, and over the course of the next couple days, it'll be gone. So Jupiter is going to be gone pretty darn soon. In the morning skies, this is what I call an accident causer for people driving east. You've got Mercury, Mars, and Venus there, and it's going to be staying there. Mercury is moving kind of weird there, so it's going to be there all week. And the moon's going to be this is a real accident causer. By the 27th, you got the moon in with that group, and look what's coming up. 27th, 28th, Saturn makes a return to the morning sky. So finally. And the moon is rising in the east right now, is up all night, so you astro imagers are cursing it right now. Let's see, I want this share bar to go away. Guess I pull it down like this. Okay, so yeah, there's the moon. All right, I want to show this video. Brother Guy sent me this morning. And this is a pretty interesting video about Milky Way mergers and stuff like that. Galaxies are merging all the time, and they send out streams of material. And the origin of globular clusters in the Milky Way has always been kind of a question. Well, researchers, including one of the researchers at the Vatican Observatory, have released a report, which I read and my eyes glassed over. But this video is made by them, and it shows a pretty good representation about what's going on. So I'll just play this and full screen it. So what you're seeing here, the blue and the red, those are all streamers of stars, gas, and dust caused by mergers. Now, they used Gaia and several other sky surveys, and when you are able to survey billions of stars, you start being able to do stuff like this. So what they're saying is that these clusters formed in the Milky Way. As well as these objects. This is a new discovery. This is a new stream of stars and material that they have discovered in this survey.
This would be the latest theory of how our current night sky with all the globular clusters and everything
So
formed.
there's
And
everyone involved with it. A lot of people, as you
a
can
lot
see.
of people doing that simulation.
So yeah,
Very
it's
interesting.
yeah, that was pretty cool. I was brother Guy says, "Do you think this warrants a post?" And I said I read through the document. I'm like, "Yeah, it does. It needs to be dumbed down a little bit though, because holy mackerel, is it complicated." So I'm going to stop sharing and let's go back over here. So let's do some observing reports. I know Adrian was waiting for that. Anybody? There's David. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Bob. And I wanted to say that with the full moon, there has not been a whole lot to see. Although the sun has been pretty good. Today's sunspot activity is pretty low with one group of 6 spots and 12 prominences. But what I wanted to let you know is that on the other side of the sun, either yesterday or the day before, was a really humongous coronal mass ejection, one of the largest ever recorded. It is larger than the sun's diameter itself. Fortunately, it's not heading towards us because on the other side of the sun. What is
Fortunately.
also fortunate is that we should be getting a big, humongous group of spots any day now appearing on our side of the sun. And so we may be in for some aurora coming up. Just wanted to let you know that. Today is the 17th of February, which means tomorrow, in case any of you don't keep a calendar, is the 18th of February, the 92nd anniversary of Clyde Tombaugh's discovery of Pluto. And as a reward for his discovery of Pluto, after the Second World War, Clyde was fired from Lowell Observatory. In my biography of Clyde, which is titled Clyde Tombaugh, Discoverer of Planet Pluto, which kind of tells you how I felt about that particular issue about what the status of Pluto. Anyway, I described that Clyde's sad last days at Lowell Observatory. And I wrote back then, the telescope Clyde Tombaugh was finally about to leave stayed at Lowell, its long career not nearly over. Years later, director Arthur Hoag claimed that with its many projects, the 13-inch had become one of the world's most productive telescopes. If it had consciousness, the telescope might have wondered what would happen without the man it had shared a life with, a man who had never quite given up searching one more pair of plates for hidden treasure, a man who called himself a traveler, going over the next hill with an eternal hope. And now back to you, Bob, and thank you.
Alrighty. Anyone else observing reports?
Well, I will give an
Adrian.
observing report. I posted on my Facebook page a picture of the full moon. I call it the early full moon because you've got 3 periods in which, to the naked eye, the moon appears full, even if it's 95%. The day before the actual 100% full moon, it rises early, the sun is just setting, and it appears full to the human eye. And I took a picture of it as it rose over a tree. For those of you that need a Christmas card, I don't know how well sharing works with this tablet. I'm not too happy with a tablet that goes from 100% to 41% in 10 minutes. So I've got to plug it up. I may share it later, or if I transfer to a different thing, I can share the image. But so we have the early full moon, the what I call the real full moon. As the sun goes down, the moon goes up. So it's like a wheel. And the late full moon, the sun goes down, the moon still appears full. The sun's been down for a little while. Moon finally rises over the horizon. And then the sun and the moon are doing this as they rise, coming together, and then they go apart again, and we have a new cycle. So astro imagers, and especially Milky Way photographers, the challenge over the next month or so has been to catch the rising core before the rising sun. A couple of imagers out in out west, and I think a couple in the other northern hemisphere imagers have done it. Tonight might have been my chance to go and try it because there's a clearing on the eastern
Yet here
side of the
you
state.
are.
Well, yeah, I would have to go at 3 in the morning and try an image from 5 in the morning till the first vestiges of twilight. And of course, the weather has quite possibly thwarted those plans.
Mhm.
So I've gotten till I did it unwittingly. I did it last March during the solstice, and ended up with a lot of. Not only did I get the rising Milky Way, I got some aurora. I went to the UP and got there at around 3 or 4 in the morning prior to the solstice, and I saw a beautiful rising Milky Way going up, heading towards Tequamanon Falls. I missed the shot that I wanted to take at Tequamanon, but I got a shot of the entire Milky Way rising um, in the Bortle 2 skies of the UP. So it is a lot of imagers don't chase the Milky Way when it's too cold. I do. But when the core comes up, a lot of imagers rush out with their cameras to try and get the first glimpses of the core and frame it against something, some foreground as they, and then post it online. So, I'm still looking for my first version of that image for 2022, and we'll be happy to share it when I get it, or not. The goal is to catch it rising over the Osable River. I think that'll make a beautiful shot, and as long as David and Dale Timmy approve, then you may actually see that shot in the WASP. So
Adrian, do you mean the equinox, not the in March? It's an equinox, isn't it? Not the,
is it it's an equinox? Did I call it the solstice?
you did. Yeah,
Ken,
I do that
I
too.
mixed those up way
Yeah.
far too much. So
That's for
yeah,
the
the
new
spring
members.
equinox.
That's for the new members, is what we're saying. So
Yeah, and yeah, please correct me.
sure.
Because yeah, even on social media where everyone thinks they're right, I had a proper correction when I mentioned spring solstice, and someone commented, "Do you mean the equinox?" I think it was the astronomy, one of the astronomy groups. There's still a form of intelligent life in the astronomy groups. And I would like to call out Bill Slagaris, who is a member of GLAC. We have observed him helping us with GLAC, and thank you for your service, Bill,
Welcome.
in
Thank you.
volunteering. The WAS has a long-standing history of volunteers for astronomy, and we will be getting back to helping people understand what the real sky is about. Hopefully within the next year.
Aren't we
So
coming up on the time when you can start seeing the zodiacal light again? Isn't that pretty
yes,
soon?
that also happens during the spring equinox. I had to try and remember it. Yeah, March and April, you begin to see it again. And if it's as dusty as it was this past year, it may be fairly easy to spot as long as you're in a dark enough sky. Um, I think Bortle 3 or darker tends to be a requirement. Maybe some of the international dark sky parks, Bortle 4, I think you may be able to see it as well. But look for it at and after the equinox through April will be a good time to look for that. And of course, I'll try and get a picture of it for you if you don't look at it. I'd be remiss before ending my observing report that I have observed that the Hollenbaugh have a new member of their family The bareness has come to take the place of their dear departed fallen baron, and publicly would like to give my both condolences and congratulations that
Thank you, Adrian.
life is moving forward for the Hollenbaugh family.
The
The
new puppy
Hollenbaugh,
may make a presentation here
yeah,
in the video chat sometime this evening. We'll see.
yep. And Dale Hollenbaugh's residence is also a great place because that's where I shot the mostly lunar eclipse. One of the only places in Michigan where you could see it was at Hollenbaugh's residence, and we both got a chance to take a shot of it there. So that ends my lengthy observing report, Bob.
Okay,
Once again,
thank
I'm
you.
hogging the mic, so I will give it back to others.
I'm going to do solar really quick here. This is a share application. Everybody see the sun? That is the sun, the photosphere in visible light. As David said, there's a couple sunspots there, a big one there, small one there, small one there, small one there. So it's peppered all over the place. But what I like seeing are, God, this darn thing. Here is a 48-hour time exposure, 304 angstroms, and this shows a lot of the prominences and stuff. And why aren't you playing? Hello, Comcast. Okay, well, we'll do the other one then. I don't know why that's not playing. So the sun's very active. There we go. So there's a whole lot of exciting stuff here, coronal loops, and a whole lot of flare activity you can see. So yeah, the sun is very, very active. I would like to see if I find something from Soho about that CME that David mentioned going in the other direction. That's kind of scary. So, hands on. Anybody hands on here? Subgroup? No. Okay, history group. Dale?
Well, I was going to say I had no report for tonight, but a thought had occurred to me while getting ready for this meeting. And what I'm going to be doing is working on, for upcoming meetings, is taking a look back 10, 20, 30 years of the Warren Astronomical Society and what they're up to that month. So that's a work in progress right now.
Okay. Going
Probably
down the
started
list.
doing that in March.
Astrophotography, we covered that. GLAC covered that. Club logo merchandise. Who's handling that now? And one of the things I would actually like to do, Connie has said that she'd like a coat. So we haven't ordered one of those since like 2012. So I think I might like to see about getting that done. If anybody'd like a coat, I'm not sure what that process would be, but we'll find out. So, discussion group, we haven't been having that. Well, we have been having that. That will be happening. Will that be happening again this week, or we cancel the discussion group while the
We
COVID
have
is
not
up?
been doing discussion
We
groups.
have not been doing discussion group. Well, we should. We can do them online. So, ask an astronomer. Okay, that pretty much covers the agenda. Diane will be coming on in a half an hour. So does anybody else have any observing reports? Well, I'll give one. I have a skylight in my kitchen, and I wake up ridiculously early in the morning and get my cup of coffee. And typically, when the moon is at full or waning gibbous and the sky is clear in Michigan, I can see moonlight on the floor of my kitchen, and it's always just a pleasure to go up to that and just look up through the skylight and see that. And I got to do that the other day. So that not much of an observing report, but I always just like looking at the moon through that little tiny slit in my ceiling. So any other observing reports? Okay, well, let's take a snack break and we'll reconvene at 8:20. Hopefully Diane will be on by then. And we will prepare for Diane's presentation. So go take a snack break, bio break, and we will be back at 8:20 p.m.
So I'll give this a try to share the screen while we're on snack break and see
You
what
on your tablet?
yeah, I'll see what happens. Shouldn't affect the meeting. It'll only affect me.
I am
Let's see if
thinking
I
of
can
getting
do
a
that.
tablet. I don't know what to get, whether I want to get an iPad or an Android.
Okay, claims there's a problem with the file. Yeah, that's that one. Cannot share content because it thinks there's a problem with the file. Yeah, okay. All righty. Well,
Can you
it
share a
was
link to
my
that Facebook post of yours? Can you see that image?
maybe.
Oh, I didn't talk
So,
about Proxima Centauri. Darn it all. How did I miss talking about that? Oh well.
Yeah, didn't they find another exoplanet around Proxima?
As a matter of fact, I said I don't know why I didn't talk about that. I had a window open with a post. I created some images about it. Yeah, it orbits 2.6 million miles from the red dwarf star Proxima Centauri. It orbits in 5.1 days. It's small. It's probably rocky. It's probably tidally locked. Yeah, it JPL didn't even have any data on it, so or actually yeah, JPL did have data on it, but nobody had any images of the solar system. So I created Proxima D and the Space Engine app that I like to do and took screenshots, and holy mackerel, is that thing orbit close.
So how's that compared to Mercury? What's the orbital radius of Mercury? Farther. So this
Yeah,
is
it is. Hold on a second.
How big's Proxima compared to our sun? Smaller?
And oh yeah, it's a red dwarf. It's
Oh, okay.
12% the mass, 15% the size. I think what I just saw about that. But yeah, it's tiny, and it orbits way inside the orbit of Mercury. You know, 5 days to orbit the star. That would be a very interesting place. Let's see, did I bring up sky? Where's my images? Yeah, there we are. And with.
You getting ready to share, Bob?
Yep.
I figured out a way to do this. I can use the computer as my presentation layer. I've been doing that for the global star parties.
All right, give me 10 seconds. I just want to show these
All right.
images.
Yeah,
So there's Proxima system. The new one is a Proxima D. Now look at the size of that. They're finding Neptune size one and mini Neptunes, but this one's tiny. So that's pretty cool. There's this orbit close to the star. What 4 point something million, but 2.6 million miles.
Where's Proxima A?
Proxima. Well, let's see. Here's the other one way out. That's Proxima C.
Is there an A, or are they reserved for something else?
Proxima A is the star.
Yeah.
Oh, because of binary?
No, the star
No.
is Proxima A. That's all. That's how
And
they do it.
that's an artistic rendering of the planet from Space Engine.
Proxima A, or any A, is the planet. Is the star itself. So there's no Proxima.
There's no planet
The first
A.
one is Proxima B.
Is that the same way for all? I haven't heard that convention.
All stars. All stars. The star is the A. Star is the A.
Here, Adrian, you want to share?
Yeah, let me do it through my screen
So
two
that's
here.
really cool. And I showed that picture and talked about that to the after school club students in my after school club and said, you know, at my age, when I was your age, we didn't know any of this stuff. We didn't know anything about exoplanets, and now we've got thousands of them. Just amazing.
So I'll give you an example of what the Milky Way looks like when we talk about Milky Way rising and the type of shots that we're looking for. Those are the Milky Way is in this orientation
Wow.
as it's coming up out of the sky. I had a couple images. So that was the night of the solstice. Um, that's when that was going on. Let's see,
At
and part of the
Aurora?
reason, yeah, and part of the reason I'm writing about the book is because of how beautiful the place is and how dark the skies
Look,
get at night.
look at
So
that.
that is part of why I'm writing the book. I have an example of Milky Way rising, kind of the shot that I was trying to recreate. Here we go. There's Lake Huron. This is this is essentially what I was trying to go for. Um,
Okay.
Moonrise. Now this is where a crescent moon is rising behind the galactic core here, which um you're seeing, and somewhere in here I have this is what happens to the Milky Way. Now that's still the moon rising, but you hit twilight and you get this bluish
Wow.
image. So
Wow.
you have an hour before the sun actually rises, and you have this look in the sky where the Milky Way's still there, but it's fading fast.
Really?
And
Okay.
that's what you this might have been a better well, there's a lot of light and I didn't manage it too well, which is why I'm going back. So here we have it in the same orientation. This was this was a shot in the Bortle 2 skies of the UP, the southern tip of paradise, where there's some light dome here, but the Milky Way absolutely it shows color as well as definition to the naked eye. When you image it, you get something that looks like this. And you're used to seeing images like this for the Milky Way in a Bortle 1 site where it just appears. Um, you can see a lot with the naked eye when you're seeing a rising Milky Way in a Bortle 2 zone. It's really good. The falls are a Bortle 2 zone. This image right here, which I haven't shared enough, is what mornings begin to look like for the next month. You see there's the Sagittarius star cloud. That's a part of the Milky Way that's fading as well as these stars are fading because the sun is beginning within about a half hour from this point in time. The
Uh-huh.
disk of the sun crosses the horizon, casts enough light to begin washing. 5 minutes after I took that shot, this was gone. And stars you watch stars fade as the earth rotates and the and things move. And this feels like there's so much light out there. It's really, it's pre-dawn or beginning of dawn. Normally your eyes aren't adjusted, but when you're here and it's really dark, it's almost like the sun may as well be up. It feels like you have so much light because it gets really dark. So one of the things that I want to do is where stop my sharing here. One of the things that I'd like to do is to get a look like that over the Al Sable River. I'll share one more time since it's screen two because I have Al Sable River pictures. So winter, where Orion sits in the night sky predicts where the Milky Way core will sit. later the same night sky. So here's the Al Sable River, and this is a darker part of the Alcona County area where when you image, you can get some of this detail. The Milky Way core will rise this way over the river, and it'll begin to stand up. So it'll go this way across. So that, if you can imagine what that shot will look like, um, it'll be rising this way. And in my hopes is that the core, and where Scorpius will be over here and the core will be here, that will make for a beautiful image. Now, if you catch it when the moon is rising, this particular part of the Osable River, it may make an even more beautiful image. But I've got light behind me and it's a fairly busy bridge. I don't know if I'll have the time to hop out of the car and take the picture. So it would be I would have to move rather quickly in
What is
order
the
to get this.
fog around the trees?
This
Uh,
is moonlight.
really?
It's moonlight rising, and it's shining on it's a kind of a golden-ish moonlight that shined on the trees here. And again, that blue color comes when you image as the reflected sunlight off the moon or the sun itself comes up. Your skies end up getting a bluish tinge to them as opposed to gray. Some might purposely change that color. It's what ends up coming out, and it ends up making for a pretty picture, which is why I tend to leave it in. But yeah,
Is that the Earth's atmosphere scattering the moonlight?
yes, which is sunlight but bounced off the moon. That's exactly it as it's coming up.
Ooh.
It's a darker to our eyes. It's a much darker shade of blue, and then as you're away from both, you end up falling into gray. When you talk about the dark of night, the color that surrounds you is gray. And if I go back to, this is sort of a how the eye sees it. There's the other side of the Osable River before moonrise. That's how the eye sees it. When you process it and you make it all pretty, you still see you have this gray. It's a grayish look. There was a little bit of aurora. I do believe this was real aurora that I happened to capture kind of the top of it. There was auroral activity the night that I was doing this. This is if I'm not mistaken, this is the North Star. I'm looking to make sure. No, that is
Hmm.
Kochab, I think. This is the North Star. There is the Little Dipper. So you're facing north. You're facing north by northwest, where the Cygnus region is set. This is Deneb, and this is the continuation of this part of the Milky Way. Not a
You
lot of
mentioned
Milky.
the North. You mentioned the North Star. I have something in chat here from Janice Messer saying she has an observing report. She actually got to see the North Star from her balcony in
Nice.
Westland, which is usually too light polluted to see, which just makes me sad. I remember I
And
was in
that's
Chicago
yeah.
at a convention in 2012. I had my telescope set up, and there was a full moon was out, perfectly clear sky.
Mhm.
All I could see was the moon. I could not see one single star in Chicago. It was
It's it's
yikes.
Chicago.
All right, we got 6 minutes until we start. I'm going to go get a coffee refill, so I'll be back in a minute, and we'll get the meeting started again.
I'll be going on mute as well.
We have a presenter. Oh, Diane's not here. Uh-oh.
She'll get her.
Exit. I have way too many windows open on my PC.
Who here has experience with binoviewers?
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Basically, instead of using a single eyepiece for your telescope, you use two. Like binocular for your eyepiece for your telescope.
Yep.
We used to do that when the great John Coslin was alive, and we would go observing at his house. We'd use the bino viewers, and it gave a sort of 3D appearance to star clusters. And a 3D, well, it gave a kind of a 3D appearance to the way the sky looked in the in that eyepiece. It's an interesting way to look to observe the sky.
The only place I've ever used one is at Stargate on the one in the observatory. I'm thinking about getting one. I just wanted thoughts and opinions.
It's not a bad way if you know, bino viewing. It makes it a little more immersive when you're observing.
Yeah,
I find
twice
there
as
to be less
expensive.
eye strain after you get your interpupillary distance right.
Yeah.
Plus, it doubles the cost of your eyepieces.
So now, if you have, you don't need to have one set of expensive eyepieces. You need two sets.
Right.
Or just one set of two of the same eyepiece with different magnifiers. Sometimes I use a Shorty Barlow for a 3 and a 3.7x.
So what type do you have? What
I have
brand?
a Celestron one. I bought it used for about $120 ages ago.
Okay. Do you use a Barlow with it? What type of
I
telescope?
use a 2x OCA from Williams Optics.
Okay.
So a screw-on filter or lenses.
I've looked
And
at
sometimes I use the 2x Barlow.
There's a number of them that are similar, Chinese made like that. Orion sells. There's probably 5 different companies that.
Yeah, Antares has the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've heard that Williams Optics has the same inside apertures as the Celestron as well.
There's this relatively newer style called a linear binoviewer.
Oh yeah, if you can get it. If you have a reflector.
Have you tried that one?
Well, the reason I say that is because the interpupillary distance is easy to adjust on those.
Okay.
It's just linear instead of bending it like you would a binocular.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, oh man.
Well, why would bending? I mean, I'm used to binoculars. Why would bending them be an issue?
Well, it's just a matter of getting eye placement right for you. Or if you're doing outreach, getting it right for each person that looks through it. I was going to say something else about it too. I forgot what it was. Sorry.
I don't know. I've read mixed reviews on the linear. That
the linear.
It
The
doesn't
reason
take
I would
any
get that is because you don't need an OCA in front of it that multiplies the magnification. So you can do like F5 observing natively with them
Yeah.
in a reflector.
They have
Now,
a very
refractor
small,
or with it might matter some too as well.
they have a very small air aperture.
Okay. It's
So a
just
lot
if you
of
have a
a lot
Cassegrain,
of
it
eyepieces
probably won't make a
yeah.
difference.
Huh?
In a Cassegrain, it probably won't make a difference except for where the mirror is in focus, the primary.
I want to use it for solar.
Okay.
One probably, and then with the refractor H alpha, and then probably with my Dobsonian. So there, I'll definitely have a backspacing issue unless I do something about it.
Yeah, with the linear, you wouldn't have to worry about it. You just plug it
Yeah.
in and there it goes. And but they cost a considerable amount of more money, like four
Well,
times
I
as
mean,
much.
you can get them for $400. Believe me, there are plenty of binoculars that
Mhm.
are way over 1,000. So I don't really consider 400 to be anywhere near the upper echelon for pricing. You know, the Celestrons are 250, for instance. The one you
And
mentioned.
generally, people get inexpensive eyepieces for bino viewing as well. Like they would probably go with like the ES what is it, 68 degree.
I have a
24
set of
millimeter would be like the very
Meade
max for like
68s,
one that
but
has a big aperture inside it. But for the inexpensive ones,
well, with that Lino
Use it.
Bino viewer, most of those eyepieces will be heavily vignetted. About half of them be chopped off. So it'd be a waste of money to get 68-degree eyepieces when your field of view is 48.
yeah, it really depends on what the inside apertures are, what they allow. Like my Celestron ones allow full aperture viewing without any vignetting. That's pretty much the only thing it would cause. Without that, using a 25 millimeter HD ortho.
Okay.
To give you an idea, like a 25 plosal would be fine.
I don't have any orthos or plosals. Plosal. I have 60.
I've also heard
83
plursal,
degree.
so I don't know.
I have some 60 degree. I don't know what they are.
The Astrotech ones?
Meade HD 60s.
Oh, I got the 6.5 millimeter ones for bino viewing, high power.
HD 60, the Meades?
Yeah, they're really fat though.
They're nothing compared to the hand grenade that is the Meade the 68 degree jobs like the Panoptics.
Right. But what I like about that is that it's 6.5 millimeters and I have eye relief.
Look who just showed up.
Hello.
Hello.
I think
Hello,
our guest
everybody.
of honor has arrived.
Back
Hey,
from
it's
the
quite a night out there, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's thwarting my dream of getting up early in the morning to shoot the rising Milky Way like all the other Milky Way chasers have been doing around the globe these days. So I may have to wait my turn, maybe a few days or a week, but
Maybe
We'll see.
Elon Musk will let you go up in his new spaceship that he's fixing.
yeah. Well, that's a different shot altogether, Ken.
It certainly is. Yeah. Well, take over there, Chief.
Yeah.
Okay,
one.
well, welcome back, everyone. Our speaker Diane Hall has braved the storm outside and made it back home. She is a current and past president of the Warren Astronomical Society. According to our bio in the WASP here, she's a moonshot enthusiast. I know that. She knows more about the moonshot than I ever did, and I lived through it, which is embarrassing. She's a chronic space pirate and frequent astronomy tourist, which she's given some very interesting reports of places she's been. She spent 2016 at, let's see if I get that right, Apache-Sitgreaves, is that how it's pronounced?
Sitgreaves.
Sitgreaves. A former WASP member owns and operates this site. And so Diane was there. Diane, take it away. Tell us about this site.
All right. So, above it all, observing from Apache-Sitgreaves Observatory. And you'll shortly find out why I say above it all. So, one of the great things about being a member of the amateur astronomical community is getting to visit people, getting to find out their favorite observing sites, getting to enjoy their hospitality. Thanks to the community that I've enjoyed and that Jonathan has enjoyed since we hooked up with the WASP in 2006, we've been able to go to Kemmerer, Utah to see the annular solar eclipse in 2012. We also in 2012 went with friends, Gary Ross and an old colleague of his who moved out to California decades ago to see the transit of Venus from San Diego. We've enjoyed hospitality of our colleagues from Cadillac West to Pensacola to Fort Collins. And we've gotten entree to some interesting places with WASP connections or Grand Rapids connections, Seven Ponds connections, and so on. We found observing sites we wouldn't have known about, from Grand Island, Nebraska to a special little star park in Manitoulin Island, Canada. In other words, it's part of what makes this hobby so special and memorable. And when we received an invitation from former WASP president Stephen Aggas, who's relocated out to Arizona again decades ago, I was a little anxious at first. I'm not one for sunlight. I'm not one for heat. I'm not one for dry. I like Michigan. It's got water. But after about a year of thinking it over, Jonathan and I accepted an invitation to a star party at Stephen's place in 2016. And it became one of the most magical experiences of observing that I've ever had. And we plan to repeat it in 2018, go back out there again. Unfortunately, Jonathan wasn't able to make it because of a family emergency, but I did go, and so did Joe Tocco, a former officer of the club. So, Apache-Sitgreaves. So this is the place. It's a couple hours drive from Phoenix. The town on the map is called Heber Overgaard. There's some stuff there if you're into touristy things. It's literally Zane Grey country if you're into old westerns. There's an RV park. There's a party store that had Mountain Dew that was 6 months expired. But they have ice, which is good. There's some restaurants and such that we didn't end up needing because, well, the food on the mountain is very good. So there's stuff there, but we were there not for the westerns, not for the sunlight, but for observing. And here's just a nice little establishing shot of how beautiful the skies are there, even on a cloudy night, which we did have several. So our host, Stephen Aggas, former WASP president, owner and founder of Apache-Sitgreaves Observatory, inspired by the star hustler Jack Horkheimer. Stephen considers himself an edutainer who blends art and science to reach the public. And up until the COVID pandemic hit, Stephen was welcoming people to Apache-Sitgreaves, not just for star parties. You know, people came up there for science groups and paid tours and such. But of course, COVID shut down a lot. So I can't say, hey, you can go pay X amount of money and duplicate this yourself, or, say hi to Steve and just show up on his door. No. That's a bit more delicate. If you can't resist after seeing this presentation, talk to me. I'll see if I can get you in contact with him. But Stephen, he's had a line of optical products, including some nice filters that I own. Made telescopes, did LCD work actually in his day job for a long time. And he's been out in Arizona for several decades, like many a former WASP officer. So here's Steve looking like an international man of mystery down in actual Panama City with a Panama hat. And there he is with some very familiar faces. You'll see our own Doug Bach and Bill Beers, plus John Lines, former president of Seven Ponds. You can tell that this is the place for Michigan astronomers to hang out. Okay, so our star party. It's called the OSP for Overgard Star Party. As I said, Heber Overgard is the spot on the map. So Overgard Star Party at the Apache-Sitgreaves Research Center, or the Apache-Sitgreaves Observatory. OSP 12 was the first one Jonathan and I attended with Steve Aggas, Jonathan and I, Joe Tocco and Bill Beers from the WASP. And I believe John Lines was there, but I don't have any photographic evidence of this. Bill was mixing up a lot of cosmopolitans because we had a lot of cloudy nights, so maybe I imagined John. I don't think so, though. I think he was there. It was a more intimate gathering for the 14th Star Party in 2018. It was just me, Stephen, and Joe. But we did have a lot of fun, and we had better weather, so we had a great deal of observing regardless. Okay, so why is ASO special? The skies are Bortle Class 2. If you've been listening to some of our recent talks by our astrophotography colleagues, you'll know Bortle Class 1 is the thing. That's why you go out to Oklahoma. Okay, so this is Bortle Class 2. So you say, well, why is this so special? Well, one, you're at 6,750 foot elevation. You're above the haze, you're above the moisture, you're above a lot. You're above the bugs. You're above a lot of problems. The humidity up there, while they do have rain and snowfall in season, can get as low as 5%, as high as 25%, which, take a look at your humidity ratings here in Michigan, especially tonight when there's a snowstorm on. Think about what 25% means. And of course, there's a facility up there with a 36-inch telescope. Now, I used to have a bit of a running complaint about some of the magazines that I subscribe to as an amateur astronomer, particularly Astronomy magazine and Sky Intel, even more so with Sky Intel back in the day. They would write some column about, oh, here's something you can see with an amateur telescope. And later, after you read through the article, you'd realize that they meant literally a 36-inch telescope out in some place like New Mexico. Well, that chews me off because I have a 10-inch job and I'm in Michigan. I'm not seeing these objects. So to actually be able to access an amateur, essentially, though it's professional grade and it was being used for research, but a built, handcrafted 36-inch telescope on a mountaintop in Arizona. Yeah, I jumped at the chance. That's amazing. That allowed me to do the kinds of things that I would read about, look at how these guys in Sky Intel accomplished it and go, yeah, right, come on. I've got a 10-inch Orion. Okay, so it's the whole setting that makes Apache-Sitgreaves special. At that point, Bortle 1 versus Bortle 2 doesn't matter. It's dry, there's no humidity, there's no junk in the air, it's dark, and you have a world-class telescope at your fingertips. Here it is, coming out of its shed. It's an amazing machine. One rule, do not touch. I am assured that if you lay hands upon the instrument when you are not supposed to, you will have a swift one-way trip down the mountain, courtesy of your host. Needless to say, I did not do that. So yeah, don't touch the machine. Now, another thing that just blew me away about Apache-Sitgreaves is the amenities. It is a deliberately beautiful place. It is, there's paths, there's lawn art, there's statues, there's, a bit of architecture, there's collections of the, petrified wood and fossils and things that Steve and his former wife Lori found up there. It's park-like. It is a very beautiful, soothing place to hang out. It makes you feel good. I was hoping I had a picture of a wooden disc upon which the participants in star parties 1 through 12 carved their names and dates. I didn't have a photo of that, sadly, and I didn't see it in Jonathan's photo gallery from 2016. It had to have been in there. But that sort of thing that makes you feel you've been invited to a special private club, you've been allowed into somebody's garden. It's not just a, hey, it's a here's a gravel pit and here's a telescope and yeah, have fun. No, it's great. There's a shady deck attached to the RV that if you, like me, you do not enjoy the afternoon sun, you can just hang out. There's delicious food. The food there is, it was communally cooked. I mean, Stephen cooked a lot of it, but also Joe Tocco made some pizzas. Bill made drinks the first year. I mixed up some drinks the second year. We've got a stockpile of food, and the camp food is delicious, and couldn't beat it. There's hot showers. I'm that kind of person. I like a shower. And once again, the bug life is shockingly not prevalent. We saw a few beetles, including a very fun little bombardier beetle that tried to get into our tent. But you are not going to be eaten alive by black flies or mosquitoes, swarmed with ants, bitten up by horse flies. Not going to happen up there. It is paradise compared with many a low altitude, wetter sort of site. So here we've got a picture of Stephen and Joe chilling with the golden retrievers, a very nice pair of doggies. Stephen generally has 2 at one time, named for an array of scientists. I believe this pair was Einstein and Hawking. Einstein, kind of a weird case. He was one of a very large litter and didn't really relate to people, which golden retrievers normally do. Nice dog, but definitely preferred his brother to us. And there's a Joe Tocco making his famous pizza. Wonderful pizza. Local attractions. If you want a day trip away from the mountains, say that the previous night was cloudy or that night is expected to be cloudy, you know you're not going to get any observing done. You want to go have some fun. There's a strewn field of a meteorite in Holbrook where we did go. I took this lovely desert flower picture there. I found a couple of little chips that did appear to have a proper crust to be meteorites. Also tripped over a piece of petrified wood as long as my forearm that was just there. So that's a fun day trip. The Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest abuts Steve's property, so there's plenty to do there if you just want to walk on trails, take in the wildlife, get a good hike in. Of course, you contend with other people in off-road vehicles, but, hey. If you want to go a little farther afield, maybe for the weekend, Flagstaff, not too far, Lowell Observatory there, among other facilities, Barringer Crater, just a little more down US down I-40. So it's kind of a nice astronomical part of Arizona. So, you can make a good little road trip out of a trip to the Apache-Sitgreaves Forest. But of course, we were there for astronomy, first and foremost. If you have a Northern Hemisphere object on your astronomical bucket list, this is the place and facility to hunt for it. Each of us arrived on the site with goals, many of them hashed out by email in the weeks leading up to the star party. Mine were inspired by one of those darned articles from Sky and Telescope magazine. called Palling Around with the Palomar Globular Clusters by Bob King. Now, Bob King was looking for these challenge objects with a slightly more modest scope than usual. I think it was a 10-inch, but anyway, I figured if he could find the things with his equipment, we could sure as heck find them with the 36. For those of you who don't recognize these on sight, on the left is Einstein's Cross, a quasar. On the right is the Pillars of Creation inside the Eagle Nebula. And yes, those were on our bucket list. So, for those of you not familiar with the Palomar objects, they are small, faint globular clusters. Like the Abell planetary nebulae, the Palomar globular clusters were discovered in the 1950s on the survey plates of the Palomar Sky Survey. The astronomers who pored through the plates and identified them include Edwin Hubble, George Abell himself, Zwicky, basically a who's who of the California astronomical scene of the 1950s. Though one of these clusters was actually first seen by none other than William Herschel. Several of these are nearby clusters. So 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11 are faint, not because they're far away, but because they're heavily obscured by dust in our line of sight. And you can probably see just from these photos here, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 10, they're a bit different there. There's more to them. Palomar 3, 4, 14, they are giants, very far away from us in the extreme outer halo of the Milky Way. Therefore, this list ranges from fairly easy, you could probably see them with whatever you own, telescope-wise, that being 9, to this is darn near impossible and I wish I had the Palomar telescope, the 200-inch Hale, because I'm not seeing it with a 36-inch. Okay. But this was my challenge list, was the Palomar objects. I obsessed over them for about 2 years. A couple other things, if you go to Apache-Sitgreaves or anything like it, just hydrate, not with booze, hydrate. Hope at least one night is cloudy and you can get a good night's sleep. So we had dodgy weather in 2016, preventing observing on several nights. So to make up for it, we kind of partied. 2018, as I said, Jonathan had to cancel because of a family emergency. I got there. I passed out from a migraine the very first night. And on the final day of the 2016 trip, I realized just how dehydrated I'd been the previous 4 days. And in 2018, I basically had a bottle of seltzer water glued to my hand to make up for that. So I did much better in 2018 because I was just constantly drinking Costco brand seltzer. Got to do what you got to do. Okay, so weather-wise, I did not take observing notes in 2016. I kind of regret that now. But the observing wasn't necessarily, the best. We had fun. It was camaraderie. It was sightseeing. It was soaking up the atmosphere. It was an experience. 2018 different ball game. I took notes, lots of notes. When we observed, where we observed, what the conditions were, what we saw, what we didn't see, and how good it was. So here's a basic rundown of conditions for Start Party 14 in 2018. First night, we had partial clouds and haze, which was just as well because I collapsed with a migraine. It hit me during dinner. I did not enjoy Steve's delicious chicken because the instant I sat down, it hit me like a baseball bat, and I had to go lie down and sleep in the RV. Night number 2, we had a window of about 2 hours to observe, but they were very good hours. Night number 3, we were out there for 3 hours, and it was fabulous conditions. Night 4, we gave ourselves a break and did small telescope Saturday. Steve had a 6-inch, I had binoculars, and so we just used smaller aperture instruments to enjoy the skies. Night 5 was the marathon. It was phenomenal. We were out there from 11 o'clock p.m. to 4 in the morning. And then night number 6, I made an observing list. I have no notes from that night. I believe I was just fried after the previous night. So, As we launch into the gallery of stuff that we saw, only one of these pictures was taken by me. None of them were taken through a telescope. We were visual observers. The one astronomical picture I did take required my binoculars in a very difficult pose to pull it off. And these are just the highlights of the many, many, many things we observed. We observed, if you can think of an old favorite that is visible in the June skies from the US, we probably took a crack at it on one of these nights. M3, M13, you name it, we tried it. But I'm here to show you things that hopefully will expand your mind a little, because it certainly expanded my observing capabilities. Okay, Omega Centauri, largest globular cluster in the sky, almost certainly the stripped down core of a dwarf galaxy. Low on the horizon, even from Arizona, especially from June, not ideal for use in a 36-inch telescope because it is huge. But we had the small telescopes and I had my binoculars. So my notes say, low in the south through a gap in trees, ghostly against evening twilight, more visible under lower power at that point. Higher magnification washed it out. The sky was barely dark. So we didn't see it looking like this image from the European Southern Observatory's La Silla telescope, but I saw it, and it is one of those things that whenever I get the chance, I try my best to see it. It is one of my touchstone objects. So, OMSENT checked off. Now, Jupiter and Saturn, gas giants. You obviously don't need a 36-inch telescope to see them. In fact, we experimented with an aperture mask to observe these two because Saturn was so blinding without the aperture mask that even though the rings were decently tilted, I couldn't even see the Cassini division. It was just glare. It obliterated my eyes. So the aperture masking worked. Stephen thought that the detail wasn't good enough on Saturn with the mask. I thought it was nice. I could see the Cassini division. We all agreed Jupiter looked better with the aperture mask, and in moments of clarity, there was some boiling along the limbs of Jupiter. It was stunning. It looked like this photo, which was definitely not taken on site. Mars. Mars was in opposition both those years. Unfortunately, the overall viewing conditions weren't great in 2016. And in 2018, we noticed we couldn't see that much. It turned out to be the beginnings of the massive dust storm that killed the Opportunity rover. We did get a glimpse of Syrtis Major one night. I wrote in my notes, Percival Lowell, eat your heart out, because we could see the finale, except we were actually seeing surface detail. Now, Jonathan had a magic moment in 2016 at the eyepiece where things became perfectly clear for just long enough for Jonathan to peer into this massive canyon, Valles Marineris, and see detail on another planet as though looking out the window of a plane into a gully in Arizona. So that was, I think, one of Jonathan's favorite moments of the entire thing. I didn't have nearly as good luck with Mars, but knowing that it was the dust storm that killed one of the beloved Mars rovers, it's like, yeah, of course we weren't going to see much. Conditions just weren't good. Venus was an evening object. This is the only thing that I observed that first night where I had the migraine and passed out. Venus had a halo around it. And I did some extreme positioning with my binoculars and I think a milk crate and I don't know what all else in order to get a photo of it through my binoculars so I could send it to Jonathan, because I thought a halo around Venus was pretty cool. Never seen that before. So that's planets. On to the fun stuff. M5 in Serpens is a large globular cluster that's pretty underrated, possibly because it's kind of off on its own in a boring area of the sky. It's not like it's right off the keystone of Hercules or the teapot of Sagittarius. You can't really star hop to it that easily. You just sort of scan the sky and boom, it's there. Well, I had never given it due respect until we went to Apache-Sitgreaves. My observing notes from 2018 say its outer chains of stars resembled the curved petals of a lotus blossom. I felt like I was falling into a flower made out of stars. The symmetry and the detail of M5 is exquisite. I chose this picture specifically because A, it looks a bit more like what you see with your eye than a Hubble picture. B, because it comes from an article called M5, Your New Favorite Globular Cluster. Because that's exactly what happened to me when I saw it under perfect conditions with a stellar instrument at Apache-Sitgreaves. M5 is amazing. Y'all should see it. It's going to be up in spring. My observing notes for this say, who cares about detail? We visually resolved the mice. This is a pair of merging galaxies 290 million light years away. Did we see the blue color and the dust lanes? No. We saw galaxies in the act of destroying one another from 200 million light years away with our eyes. That's cool. That's why we go to mountaintops. M51. I'm sure all of you who are active observers have seen this. Most of y'all at least know of it, the famous Whirlpool Galaxy in Canes Venatici. My notes say amazing detail and spiral arms. Joe Tocco said he saw sapphire blue in one portion of the major disk and amber in the smaller one. In other words, Joe was seeing with his eyes the colors that you can see in this Hubble image. If you can see color in another galaxy with a ground-based telescope, you have pole vaulted into William Herschel caliber astronomy. I could not make out the colors. Joe was like God tier at that point. One of my favorite challenge objects is the Corpse Star, the white dwarf at the center of the Ring Nebula. You can see it here in this photograph. Again, NASA and ESA data. An even more challenging part of the ring, other than the smoke ring blobby donut part, is the petals of the outer ring. So, at Apache-Sitgreaves, Joe Tocco and I saw that Corpse Star at the center of the ring. We used an oxygen 3 filter and we saw the petals. We wrung out of the ring what the human eye is capable of seeing with an instrument like that. So, yeah, we were happy customers. Then there's the dumbbell. Jonathan likes the dumbbell a lot more than me. I think it's boring. Apache-Sitgreaves revealed its beauty. There was so much detail, I wrote. It didn't even look like a dumbbell. It looked like a bat ray or something. Very green. A whole host of color was available to my eyes that I'm not going to see with my 10-inch here from Michigan, where it looks like a chewed up gray apple core. So I saw new beauty in the dumbbell. And then we turn our attention to the Trifid, very colorful nebula in Sagittarius. I think I saw red color in the Trifid, even with the oxygen 3 filter. The oxygen 3 filter is designed to maximize the greens and blues emitted by that kind of excited molecule. The red was bleeding through the filter. It was that vivid. Then we've got the Swan, or the Omega. It's something that I look at every now and again. Again, not really one of my favorites. I'm more of a globular cluster, open cluster person than a nebula person. I've never seen the Swan look like it did from Apache-Sitgreaves. The neck wasn't just feathery. It looked 3D. It's not possible to see a 3D image with one eye to the telescope. I was seeing what appeared to be a 3-dimensional cylinder of detail that looked like I could reach out and grab it. With hydrogen beta, we also saw a great deal of this nebulosity visible in this image outside the familiar shape of the Swan itself. Absolutely one of the highlights. If I never see the Swan look that good again, at least I did it once. Now, pillars of creation. I teased you all with that at the outset. Have you ever wanted to see the pillars of creation as seen by the Hubble telescope? Raise your hand. Okay, we did. And it looked more like this, not a massive close-up, but in the context of the overall nebular velocity with the star cluster. But we saw these guys, these three fingers here, with our eyes. Pretty damn cool. Like, you just can't capture the emotion of seeing that and going, yeah, we did it. It's there. Then there's M22. Any of y'all who've heard me expound on the beauties of globular clusters know M22 is one of my favorite binocular objects. I love it to bits. I have supported it against many naysayers who prefer M13 or what have you. I'm not going to say I ate crow over this, but I did have to admit, using the same instruments on the same night between M5 and M22, M5 has the superior structure. M22 looked a little asymmetric, looked a little messy. It's a glorious explosion of stars, but it really is at its best in a smaller telescope or a good-sized pair of binoculars. When you turn the full firepower of a 36 on it, it loses something. So, full disclosure, M5 looks better under those conditions than M22. I admit it. Then there's the veil. The veil is, when Jonathan and I first got into astronomy 2 decades ago, we looked at the veil a lot from various dark sky sites, particularly the places we were going in Canada. We looked at it with our 8-inch, we looked at it with our 4.5-inch. I was kind of veiled out. I'm not a nebula person. I've seen it, okay, it's nice, whatever. Move on. There's star clusters to see. Well, Stephen likes the veil. We viewed it multiple times over the nights using different instruments. We gave it a small telescope Saturday treatment where you got the full nebula in the field of view of the little 6-inch. And then other nights we zeroed in on different brilliant segments as seen here in the eastern and the western part. And it was poetry in the eyepiece. Stephen compared one section to moonlight on the mountains. I have in my notes, amazing solid 3D effect like braids or twisting serpents. This was one of the most mind-blowing objects we saw, and it's not something I had any strong feelings about going into it. The beauty of it was revealed in ways that just, blew me away. Centaurus A is another one of these objects that Jonathan and I want to see every time we get within striking distance of it. We'd hoped to see it this very past weekend in New Mexico and weren't able to do it. We saw the dust lanes at twilight. You're looking at another galaxy in twilight, barely dark skies, and seeing the dust lanes. That, again, is the sort of thing that you have to go to a site like Apache-Sitgreaves to see. Now, the antenna galaxies, unlike the mice, with which I frequently confuse them prior to this observing session, they're only about 45 million light years away, not 290. So seeing detail in them is not unexpected, but we saw the beautiful spiral structure. Stephen and Stephen only was able to make out the antennae. And under a hydrogen beta filter, we could make out the starburst areas of this, catastrophic mess of galaxies. Very satisfying. Now, we get to the Palomar List. So the first cluster we knocked off was, appropriately enough, Palomar 1. My notes from June 10th, the mind-blowing marathon session, says, it's small, it's faint, but we saw it. Didn't knock my socks off. It was very much up. Yep, that's Palomar 1. Okay, done. On to the next object. Notch in the wall. We're good. Then we snagged Palomar 4. My notes say photos showed me a Pac-Man shape, which I think you can discern from this particular photo. You sort of the little notch right here, and then the overall density. I couldn't make it out with my eyes. But again, we saw it. Palomar 7 was distinctly more satisfying. It's actually a 10th magnitude object discovered by Comet Hunter Lewis Swift of Comet Swift-Tuttle, Comet Swift, etc. Before George Abell added it to the catalog. So it was seen by a guy back in 1889. That means it's good. 10th magnitude object. I liked this one better than the smaller Palomar 4. Joe actually found Palomar 4 very charming. He preferred it to 7. So, side-by-side comparison, Palomar 4 probably has better structure. Palomar 7, just, the color, the brightness, I got more out of it. The apex of the Palomar catalog is, I think, inarguably Palomar 9. This is the one discovered by William Herschel all the way back in 1784. It's easily the best of the lot at 9.3 magnitude. My notes from June 10th say, nice, bright, comparatively little cluster next to a yellow star from the Hipparcos catalog. That means it's not bright, which looks startlingly bright compared to the Globular. This has been compared to like a king's crown or a queen's diadem with a, big shining topaz or something in it. It's really charming. You're seeing something Herschel found. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Of the Palomar objects that we definitely saw with our eyes, it gave me the most genuine observing pleasure. All right. Then it was time for a little bit different. So M33, the great face-on spiral galaxy and triangulum. This is not an object for a 36-inch telescope. It's arguably not any kind of telescope object. It's a binocular. It's a try to see it as a challenge object for your own good in a dark sky with your own eyes. Now, our goal was something Jonathan concocted a while back. We wanted to see if we could use a oxygen-3 nebula filter to see the star-forming regions in M33 with no magnification. So we had a pair of custom-designed goggles that we put an oxygen-3 filter in one eye, and just for funsies, a hydrogen beta filter in the other. And I ran around the mountaintop with hydrogen beta going into my left eye and oxygen-3 going into my right, looking around and tilting my head and closing my eyes to see what the sky looked like, which was amazing, particularly the Milky Way itself, and to see if I could make out the unmagnified starburst regions in M33 with my right eye. My notes say, I thought I saw them, but maybe I was tripping at 3:30 a.m. from sleep deprivation and Mountain Dew. I had fun. I can't guarantee I saw what I meant to see, but I had fun. After that, we went back to the esoteric. Abell 2065. If you've heard of it, that means you're hardcore. If you haven't, no worries. Neither had I. Steve says this one is an infamous challenge object, in part of because what Burnham, whose trilogy of observing guides Dale Teamy recently covered, wrote about it. I had missed that passage. I didn't know what constellation this was in. I didn't know what it was. It's elongated smudges of galaxies from about 1 billion light years away, located in Corona Borealis if you want to try from Michigan skies or, take a trip somewhere. We saw them. I'm not going to say that it got me the visceral pleasure of the Swan or the Veil or Palomar 9, as it didn't, but we were looking at smudges from 1 billion light years away. Not going to complain. Actually, felt pretty proud of my eyes. Some things, though, eluded us. IC 1318 is a dark nebula around the bright star Saturn in Cygnus. It's actually an emission nebula, so it would normally be bright, but it appears dark against the radiant backdrop of the Milky Way. It's contrast. It's not a true dark nebula at all. We saw it. Joe Toko and I were both flagging. We had a lot of trouble with it. We had similar trouble with the dark parts of the Fireworks Galaxy. There's only so much observing a pair of human beings from Michigan can do in one night at almost 7,000 feet in the air, especially after a couple of beers. Now, M87 with the plasma jet is something easily within reach of any amateur telescope. This is the massive elliptical galaxy in Virgo with the famous black hole and the equally notable plasma jet shown here by Hubble Space Telescope as a gorgeous ultramarine blue. Easy pickings with any telescope, but with a 36-inch, it looked pretty much like this Hubble picture, except not blue. It was definitely something to remember. And then,
Excuse me.
bless you, and hit that mute button, Jim. Questions will come later.
Sorry about that.
This was our white whale. This was the ultimate challenge object. Joe and I spent between us about 45 minutes on Thursday night teetering at the top of a ladder. Again, this is a 36-inch telescope. If y'all have seen me in person, you know I'm not even 5 feet tall. I have trouble with objects in certain configurations of Stargate's 22-inch Big Dob. This telescope was more than a foot wider, therefore substantially longer. The ladder is bigger, and I'm standing on top of this thing trying to get my eye to focus around a 15th magnitude galaxy in hopes of seeing a 19th magnitude quasar made visible by relativistic gravity lensing. We tried, and we tried to see not this galaxy, which we saw. 15th magnitude galaxy, I'm pretty proud of us. But this, the multi-part mirage of the quasar behind the 15th magnitude galaxy. Yeah. We could still see the galaxy with great difficulty at a whopping 1,000 magnification. 1,000 magnification at 36-inch telescope. None of us could make out details in the quasar. It probably requires, we all thought it was theoretically possible. Probably requires absolutely pristine conditions, and while that night was amazing by the standards of anywhere in Michigan, again, not just dark, but dry, it was not pristine enough to pull that off. So we banged our heads against a virtual wall for damn near an hour and could not make it. But we tried, you know, it was a heroic failure. And with that, how did we do? Heroic failure aside. I'm pretty happy. How did I make out on the Palomar list? I don't know. Why don't I know? Because I have no observing notes for the final night because I was fried. And I know what we set out to see. I know what my observing plan was. I don't have a single scrap of verification that we saw everything. So I have the observing notes for 1, 4, 7, and 9. I have observing notes for our attempt to see Palomar 5. We didn't make it out. We knew where it should be. We were on it. Nobody was seeing any details. We decided to return to it 2 nights later with small telescope Saturday intervening. I believe we did. I believe that we saw it because I have the checklist copied from the Sky and Telescope article where I have in parentheses next to Palomar 5, got it. But no notes of my own. It's just the text from the article with got it in all caps. Likewise, that night we were trying to see Palomar 6 and 8, fairly bright, 10 and 12, fairly bright, 14, also pretty good. No notes whatsoever. I don't even have them in the margins of the Sky and Tel article. So that is the trouble with too much world-class observing. One gets overwhelmed. That is why one cloudy night out of 4 or 5 is not a bad thing. But I think we did respectably. Given that I do have the note to myself saying got it, I believe that I saw 1/3 of the Palomar catalog basically in one night. That means I've got the rest of my life, which hopefully my eyes will be up to it, to see the other 10. And I'm pretty happy with us. So, many thanks to our host, Stephen Aggas, to the comrades who joined me there, especially Joe Tocco in 2018, who was my buddy. Originally, we talked about this and planned it as a joint presentation, but Joe's work schedule got in the way. Joe has, he was an officer. He was a fabulous, dedicated officer for quite a few years, but his work schedules kept him away from us. And so Joe and I have never been able to get it together, compare notes, and celebrate what we saw at Apache-Sitgreaves the way that we intended to. And as the years went by, I said, you know what? I need to spread the good word. I need to let y'all know how fabulous this place is. Need to let y'all know what we saw, not just so you know, but so I can relive some really good memories. So that's the place. Stephen Aggas is the man. I highly recommend it. Do y'all have any questions?
I got one.
Sure.
Where did you say this is? You said this is 2 hours outside of Phoenix. Is that what you said?
Yeah, roughly. I wasn't the one driving, so I don't remember completely.
What was the time factor? When does it occur?
Well, generally it's in like May or June. So the way that things worked out with the moon and with Joe's Grand Prix duties, we did it in June both those years. I think it's moved around a bit over the, decade and a half that it took place.
Because I have family both in Phoenix and Tucson, so I would love to go out there and see it. I just want to go there when they're there,
Yeah,
So,
the place is not operating at full capacity like it was.
obviously.
Bob's posted the website. I recommend if you've got Steve's contact information, reach out to him personally. If you don't have it, talk to me.
Now,
And
who controls this 36-inch telescope that's out there?
that is Steven. He is the operator. Nobody touches it. This is not like the big dot.
Is
Steve
it a dome?
operates it. It's outside. If you can see from the picture that I had earlier,
I saw that.
it
Yeah.
lives in a shed. It's
Okay.
36. It lives in a shed. Steve was planning to do some more things at the
Oh yeah.
build like
Okay,
a
I
roll-off
missed that.
facility for it, but we it's been a hard couple of years for everybody, so that's not happened.
I
But
get that.
it lives in a shed. It comes out. It's on a patio. There's the big orange ladder, and Steve controls it, and you climb up the ladder, grip the ladder, keep your hands away from the scope, and take in everything with your eye.
Very cool. Okay, good. Thanks, Diane. That was great.
You're welcome.
I can verify the distance. I've driven up there from Mesa, Arizona, in about an hour and 45 minutes, depending on the weather a little bit. And another place you can contact Steve and the observatory is through the East Valley Astronomy Club website.
Yes, Stephen was an officer of that club too, I believe, in addition to being
Yes, he was.
our
He wa-
past president.
He was.
He's been a president of multiple clubs.
I actually met him. I was making a presentation to that group out here about 5 years ago, and he came up to me afterwards and reminded me that he had been president of our club, as you probably mentioned earlier.
Yep. Yep, no, good call, Jim. I forgot that it was that particular club. So yes, that's a good way to do it.
He runs it. He runs an
part-
ad in their one ads every month on their newsletter.
Yeah, I think he also he writes several columns, I think, for them and for the local or rather regional paper, like an astronomy column. It's good stuff. Dr. Dale.
I heard you mention that when you're looking at very bright things like Saturn and Jupiter, they're too bright, and so you used an aperture reducer. Would it have been better to use a moon filter and keep the full aperture?
Yes, but understand the mood up there. So when it was just the three of us, me, Steve, and Joe, we were in kind of gonzo astronomy mode. I mean, remember, I was running around with goggles with 2 different filters in them just to see what it was like. And Steve was cool with that. He wanted to know what my experience was looking at the sky through different wavelengths. So we were tinkering, we were doing some stuff. Joe, Joe's a tinkerer, Steve's a craftsman too. They were coming up with ideas, and I was just like, yeah, sure, yeah, fine. I'm happy. Yeah, you want to do this thing? Yeah, absolutely. I'm on board. So it was that kind of atmosphere.
No, I'm not at all being critical. I'm just
No,
trying to understand.
just yeah, that's a great idea, but we were on a totally different vibe.
Gotcha.
Any pictures of you in those goggles?
No, I would have to do a mock-up because it was at night. B, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I haven't really gotten the chance to hang out with Joe since then. So I don't know what photos he took. I've got my terrible photo archive, and I am a terrible photographer from both those trips. And Jonathan has a substantial photo archive from 2016, but very few pictures of humans, mostly nature, meteorites, establishing shots of the grandeur of the desert, that kind of thing. So nope, sorry, I would have to fake it for the WASP or something like that. I still have the goggles.
We have a question from YouTube from Michael Young. Is there going to be an OSP 2022?
I really don't know. Only Steve can answer that. We were all gearing up for the 15th one in 2019, and then, some personal things happened and we weren't able to do it. And then 2020 was COVID, 2021 was more COVID. Steve's had some long-term plans to relocate down to Panama, actually. The scene of him with the beer and the Panama hat, that's not a joke. He's interested in a full-time relocation. So I would say almost certainly not, but if you're interested, reach out to the club that like Jim recommended and see if Steve's up for hosting something.
Oh, so I have a comment. And I think what I got out of this presentation was something that I don't think is described enough for those of us that have a camera. And by the way, Diane, there's no such thing as a bad photographer.
You have to see some of my pictures, Adrian. I literally put my thumb in front of the camera. Like, I am that bad.
So those things happen. But if there's a subject, no matter how blurry, you can point to it and say it's there. And that actually makes my point, because had you been able to make out 4 little bitty blobs around the center of that galaxy, they wouldn't have been sharp. They wouldn't have been anything, but you would have been just as happy to just see them. That's all photography is about. And I think the fun that you all have doing visual astronomy is something that I hope comes back as this pandemic wanes, because I was there thinking, what would I be doing? My camera would probably be put away, or one of you would probably tell me, put the camera away, and I would have spent more of the time observing than imaging. After you get a few wide angle shots, then it's about what do my eyes see. I also like binocular astronomy and plan to try and do more of that as more star parties open up. So I really appreciated the experience of visual astronomy, and that maybe that will bring some of that back. Everyone's into pretty pictures and instant gratification, and I think that fast becoming a lost art of amateur astronomy. It's what amateur astronomy is about, really. And getting the pictures are nice mementos of where you are, but having seen it, I mean, that's something I can tell by your presentation you'll never forget. And
Yeah.
so that
Yeah. And even
that's
failing to see something when you're in place and you've got the equipment and you've got the comrades and you're trying, it's
I
like chasing the white whale. Like, okay, we got a
I
fish story. It got away
I
from us.
completely get that. It's the opposite of in imaging. You take a shot, you can hardly see what you're even shooting at. You get home and you look at it and you discover that you picked up this or you picked up that. I get a bunch of small meteorites or a bunch of satellites or whatever that I didn't see naked eye. And it's like the exact opposite with visual. You know what you're trying to see. You're you're going after it. You're giving it your best, and it just does not appear to your eye. And the chase becomes just as important. As if you do see it, then there's the gratification of having laid your eyes on it. And that's I'm pretty grateful there's a club called the Lowbrows that a lot of visual astronomers still roam the earth there too. And that was one of the things that they impressed on me is it's seeing it, those photons hit your eyes, not a sensor to be mangled and edited and sometimes over processed, but it hits your own eyes. You're seeing that part of the universe that's out there and connecting with it. How many light years away? You mentioned one of the Palomar objects or the
Well,
mice.
it was the mice. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're connect.
this is
Go.
something that Jonathan Wax is poetic about is when we looked at the mice, photons were hitting my retina and Joe's retina and Steve's retina. Those photons left a pair of dying, twisted, mangled galaxies 290 million years ago, traveled across the immensity of both space and time and hit our eyes. That's
That's
poetry.
No, I agree. That was the description given to me when I started out with the lowbrows, and first thing you learned was visual. Whenever taking an astro image, and of course I do a lot of wide field, the very first thing I like to do is stare at the sky and where I want to take the image. Um, Okie Star Party, the first thing everybody was doing was typing on a computer and troubleshooting problems. And I'm thinking that's one of the reasons I haven't gotten so far into portable deep astrophotography is that there's too many that are coming in and are happy to stare at their computer, and this night sky out here is beautiful. And what the type of hobby I picked still allows me to immerse myself in the night sky more so than worrying about whether I get a good picture. So again, just really enjoyed that presentation, and
Thank you.
touches touches on a lot of reasons that I love astronomy in general. So thank you.
My pleasure. It was
Diane,
yes.
I have a couple more pictures of Steve's setup if you want me to share it.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll stop sharing and let you throw them up there.
Let me find it here. Can you see that?
Yes.
This is from a slide that I gave to the club 3 or 4 years ago about Arizona Astronomy. And this thing right up here in the corner shows the setup, not at azimuth, of course, but kind of shows the size of it, like you were talking about, getting up to the eyepiece and everything. Anyhow, and the map down here kind of shows the location of it in a I'm trying to think of what you call this kind of a photograph, but it shows light pollution down here in the Phoenix area, up as opposed to where Steve's setup is.
Yeah,
like a
Phoenix is
dark
just an
sky map, I
abomination.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dark sky map. I'm sorry. Thank you,
Yeah.
Adrian.
Jonathan and
Anyhow.
I were in Albuquerque this past weekend. Again, didn't get any nighttime observing done, but Albuquerque skies, the lights are shielded. They have regulations. It's
Right.
so dark in New Mexico's major city, and you just see what's possible. And then you look at Phoenix, and it's just a disaster zone.
Phoenix,
Yeah.
big college town, right? Or aren't both of them college towns?
Oh, yeah.
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 Yep. And Tucson and Phoenix. So.
Yep.
We're in Nebraska on the way down to Okie-Tex, and I noted the way that a lot of their lighting was shielded and aimed downward. And yeah, that when you see that, you realize, yeah, it can be done. The that dark path we were on still felt very safe. We saw a lot of people running, past dusk on that path, and every light was down, was aimed downward. And we said this is how it should be done everywhere.
You know that
You
the
know?
International Dark Sky Association was founded and is headquartered in Tucson.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
well Tucson's got the local regulations because of Kip Peak and all that, but I was very pleasantly surprised in every conceivable way by New Mexico. Great place. Would totally go again.
Well, there are a lot of remote observatories. I think there's a farm of remote observatories somewhere near the New Mexico-Arizona border. Our own Dr. Brian Odom has one. I don't know if I hear
Oh
that
right.
he may be selling it, but yeah,
Aw.
he's done all his EAA work remotely. He's set up a rig that he can take with him. I think he's traveling south now and using his traveling rig to do some outreach. So, but yeah, that
Cool.
was part of the reason he was there, was those skies. And that was our way of seeing some of the events, like total lunar eclipses that we couldn't see here in Michigan. We watched it on his big screen as he would show it remote. So yeah.
Fred Espernak lives in Portal, which is right on the New Mexico border. He has a house there and a whole observatory there, and I'm planning on visiting him pretty soon. He's got a beautiful place. It's the house is the subdivision he's in is filled with people that have telescopes. It's like a really great place to go, and I'm going to go out there. I'm sure that David was there at some point. I don't know for sure though.
Sure.
Portal.
Well, gang, it's 9:31. So since even though I turned things over to Bob tonight, technically I can call this meeting
Yeah,
a
you're in
wrap.
charge. Don't you
You're
stop.
back in
Go ahead.
charge. You
I'm back.
snatched
I'm
the
in
reins
charge.
from Bob.
You're in,
Boss
Give it
lady takes over.
Bob. You're okay, but Diane's our queen here. So
Well,
let's
Bob, thank you so much. It was just an absolute nothing today quite went as planned. So, but it's thank you all. And I really enjoyed getting to share some really good memories with y'all. So take care. Be safe tomorrow on the roads. Hopefully not that many of you have to get out there. And we'll see y'all at the open house, depending on how things are. You gave the update on Riyadh, right, Bob?
Yeah,
Yeah,
gave it.
Riyadh actually gave it himself. He felt
Yeah,
well
good.
enough to do it.
Diane,
Very
I
well.
gave the update, but because
Thank
of
you.
my condition, I will not be able to open Stargate. But if we have a volunteer that can run it, then we'll keep the open house if it's clear.
Very good. So we'll keep y'all posted on that. And otherwise, we'll see y'all at virtual Cranbrook.
Cool. Take care, everybody. Good night.
There's
Yep.
skies, everyone.
Have a good
night.
night.
All right.